So I'm with Chuck out at Friends Plaza, and we are taking in this lovely weather, and he brought a ton of stuff to talk about. We've got a pretty packed agenda for this meeting, and we're also going to talk about fall planting schedules because you're our planting guru.
I guess I have become that.
We still get requests for Chuck's planting guide, so backed by popular demand.
Yes.
So let's get started. Let's talk about some of the stuff you brought.
Okay. Well, we're right about at the end of the best planting time for things like rutabagas and gill feather turnip, which I've brought in the past.
Yes.
I had a picture earlier of the last year's gill feathers blooming, nice yellow blossoms. It was maybe a 12-foot section of row, but because of the snow cover and the briefness of our actual cold weather, they all came through.
Oh, nice.
It was like I had picked out everything that had any size to it, and looked edible. These were just the little scrawny rejects, but they grew up, they flowered, and because I'm a glutton for punishment, I harvested them all.
Oh my gosh!
And
that's a lot of seed.
This is the result. I could plant a considerable more than I can stand to work up and keep weeded. I could plant gill feather turnips, but these are for you.
Thank you very much.
And you need to go home and get those in right away.
Immediately.
And because we're getting late, you're going to have to be extra ruthless with them.
Okay.
And make sure that they're about 3 inches apart when they come up.
Okay.
Thin out those other ones because otherwise you'll have what I had last year, a bunch of scrawny little scrubs.
Okay. Noted. I will clear my evening.
But if you keep them well watered, which so far this season hasn't seemed to be a huge problem. Keep the cabbage pests off of them because they are in the cabbage family. So European cabbage worm, cabbage looper, and diamondback moth are the three. So Bacillus thuringiensis still works pretty well on those, which is a biological, so not like a big chemical problem. So if you can keep them growing fast and keep the foliage on them and not eaten, you should still be able to. Although we're right at the end of when that's possible.
I will get these in the ground. What other things do you plant in the fall, or can you plant in the fall?
You can plant any number of the cool season crops. Most of them actually do better in the fall.
Interesting.
I
don't mean to interrupt, but I have a question.
Okay.
How do they do better in the fall with waning sunlight?
They do better in the fall because usually the moisture gets better, the temperature gets a little cooler.
Okay, more temperature.
And a
a
lot of the cabbage family things, for instance, are biennial natively, but they don't make it through our winters, so they're not. But they're storing up all that energy in the fall so that they can then bloom and produce as much seed as possible.
Gotcha.
And so just conditions are such that works better.
Gotcha.
We're a little late if you're going to start from seed. If you can find some sort of a plant purveyor that has enough that starts some of those things, you could probably still plant out any of the cabbages, but you'd have to start with plants at this point because it's way too late for seeds.
Got it.
The one that I'll take that back for is kohlrabi.
Okay. Because
they come pretty fast. So you could direct seed kohlrabi today, and there's no comparison between a spring kohlrabi and a fall one.
You've said that on a couple different shows.
They're sweeter, they're more tender, they hold much better in the garden. You can get one in the fall that's pushing 4 inches across, and it's still pretty tender.
Nice.
Where in the spring, when they get that big, they're starting to get that tough outer coating.
What about peas or lettuce?
Lettuce, yes.
Okay.
It probably takes about 2 months in the fall for lettuce to come from seed. Certainly things like radishes. I think you could still get by with the winter radishes that we've had fun with before, the watermelon and some of those others. Peas, other people have told me they have success with peas in the fall. I haven't had so much. I've been trying to grow shell peas when I tried it. You might be better off with one of the pod type,
Like a
either the
snap.
snaps or the sugar peas, the Chinese peas.
So still plenty of things that you can be growing late summer,
Yeah,
early
and
fall.
I think I've talked about dill. If you plant
Yes.
dill in late summer, it doesn't get the day length cue to flower, so you just get these plumes of foliage. So if you really want dill weed as opposed to dill seed, fall is the time to grow it because it just gets
Interesting.
lush.
Interesting. The flavor profiles being different in the different seasons is
Much
fascinating.
much milder with the foliage than with
Wow.
the seeds. The seeds are pretty
Yeah.
pretty pungent.
All right. What else
What
did you bring
else?
from the
Well,
farm?
Linaria
Love.
has
Very pretty. You want me to hold it while you talk?
sure has naturalized at the farm. It's in the cabbage family, so it has little flowers with 4 petals, and then it gets these. It's called money plant sometimes because these look sort of like coins. I don't know. Everybody here looks young enough that they probably don't remember half dollars and silver dollars, but all of us grandpas do. And
Uh-oh, lost one.
yeah, and the thing that happens is the outer coating of these lets loose, and you're left with this translucent inner part, and then these seeds fall and they reseed each other.
Is this fairly easy to grow and maintain for the at-home gardener?
Once you have it, it tends.
there's one.
Yeah, once you have it, it tends to reseed itself. I think, but I'm not 100% sure that it will act like a winter annual. Like if it falls to the ground right now and gets started, it might get enough growth so that it would flower next year.
Gotcha.
If not, it will have a vegetative session next year, and then the following year. Some of these are up like
Really?
4 feet and well branched. And if you wanted to use that in a dried arrangement, you could just take off the side shoots and
Do they propagate well? Can you share these with friends?
well, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, giving you the seeds.
Well, beyond the seeds, it starts. Is
Well,
this an easy one to divide and share or no? I don't think I've ever seen
because
one of
it's in
these
the-
in the wild.
because it's in the cabbage family. You might be able to dig up
There's the
if you
little
can
seeds.
if you can recognize the seedlings, and dig them up when they're small,
Ah, gotcha.
and then either pot them up or
That's a
get them
good
planted
idea.
somewhere.
So if you've got this established, look around the base and maybe you'll have some little ones to share.
Yes, because it's probably been at the farm for 50 years, and it just shows up. You don't tell it you're going to be there, but it shows up here and there and here, and hasn't gotten like the garlic mustard that's the bane of the understory in the forest. It just kind of does itself nicely. Also, Dame's rocket blooms at a similar time, also in the cabbage family, and that has also
I did not know these were in the cabbage
naturalized
family.
there. That one I think can be a little bit more of a invasion problem, but it hasn't been overly aggressive at the farm. So I don't know. This one I don't believe has a fragrance that I've ever noticed. The Dame's rocket does have kind of a sweet, spicy kind of an aroma to it.
But these are definitely fun to look at.
They are.
Very nice. All right, what's next?
Well, because they're getting ready to come up, we've got the miracle lilies that we've talked about
Yes.
before, Lycoris squamigera. And I dug these Tuesday, a couple of days ago, and nothing was showing, but this is the season, right around the 1st of August is when they come up. And I remember that because the first time I was introduced to them, it was during the Kankakee County Fair, which is always like the first week in August.
Ah, so that was your high sign that the fair is nigh.
Yeah, and I think maybe even my mother got the first bulbs she got. She was a superintendent in the art department up there, and she got these. So I've got a bag of them for you again because a little bird told me that when you moved, you didn't dig them up and bring them with you. So these need to get in again.
Okay.
Get your bulb planter. because these make this long shaft up toward the surface, you'd probably be all right if you just get the base down about 6 inches, and then that gets this up to not that far below the surface.
Okay.
Right?
And for people who may not be familiar with these, explain kind of the draw and.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
They come up in the spring and look like daffodil foliage on steroids. It gets 2 or 3 times as high and wide. It actually shades out a portion of the ground around it. It's just so dense and intense. And then about when daffodils are dying back, they die back. And then as you get toward the last days of July, early August, the flowers come up naked. Sometimes they're called naked ladies.
Oh yeah, no leaves.
No leaves, just the flower stems. We've had them on the show before. At the farm, there are hundreds and hundreds of flower stems.
Now, do you cut these back, or do you just kind of let them do their own thing when they're?
I just let them go.
Let them go. Okay, and you don't have to dig these up either, right? They can stay in the ground?
They certainly can. These have been there for more than 30 years. As I was telling you before we started taping, it started out in a single row that was space between them. Now the row is at least a foot wide as they divided and pushed themselves out further and further. So I have to be really careful when I dig them to stay far enough back. But if I wanted to plant tens of thousands of these, I think I could be there in a hurry.
Wow. And do they make those little bulblets that you can pop off, or how do you, or do they drop seed?
They just do offsets.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
I have never noticed that mine makes seeds. Diane Nolan told me that hers did reseed themselves, but I have never seen anything that resembled a seed pod. After they flower, pretty quickly, the flower stalks fall over, and not long after that, they dry up.
But they sure are pretty, and they put on a lovely show.
So yeah, shades of pink, and I don't know if there may be some color variations that are available commercially.
Garlic.
Yes, I've dug up my onions and garlic.
Everyone knows that Chuck is the garlic guy.
Well, people know different things about me that way. But this is the music garlic that we talked about and that I gave you a start of. Has large cloves, not too many. I haven't trimmed one and weighed it to see if it made the 4-ounce barrier, but that's a pretty nice garlic bulb. These have been out of the ground 3+ weeks now. They still had 3 green leaves when I dug them. So that means that the papery coatings down here on the bulb should be fairly intact. And then once we get dried to that stage, I would come in.
So once everything up top is dried down, that's when you make the cut?
Yeah, it's about a 4-week process usually, where you want to leave the roots on because that helps to wick moisture away from the bulb as it's curing. And then you come in and just...
And how much longer does this one have to cure before it's ready for pasta?
I think you could probably risk it now. Yeah. But it usually we just say about 4 weeks for it. And then I leave the dirt on it while it's curing, and then just kind of cautiously rub the dirt off. You can pretty quickly get
there you go. Looks just like the
pretty
store.
Attractive one.
Looks better than the store.
This is a similar variety, and it seems like no matter how many times you go over and try to cut off the top sets, 1 or 2 escape.
Yes.
And so this is one of the escapes this year. And it's not a true comparison, but you can see that when all that energy goes into the top sets, there's a big difference in the bulb. This is actually Georgian crystal, which is another porcelain type, but never gets quite as big as that. But you can expect, depending on variety, 25 to maybe as much as 35% less in the main bulb if you let it grow up there.
If you leave that flower.
The porcelains have the tiniest little bulbils that you've ever seen.
I see.
Sometimes they're like little grains of rice. So to grow new, you can plant these and grow them, but with the porcelains, it takes a couple of years to get them up to any size.
Okay. At
where
what phase do you take this off?
when it when it when it first when they first show, and hopefully before they do too much curling,
Mm-hmm.
these probably were a little late because you can still sort of see where it had curled.
Yes.
And it with different types of garlic, it could be 270 degrees, it can be a couple of rounds, and then usually it will go ahead and straighten itself out ultimately.
Very nice.
Like the rock and bowl types have bigger bubbles, and sometimes those get to be 3/8, almost half an inch in diameter.
Mm-hmm.
You can plant those and actually get a bulb that divides into cloves the first
Really?
year. It would take at least 2 years with these to get that accomplished.
And we all know I don't have that kind of patience, but
How's
the
the,
asparagus is in, and the little fuzzy babies are up, and I just keep looking at them and saying, all right, I'll
Yeah.
see you in 26.
keep them weed free and fertilized and happy. Water them if it happens to get dry,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll be amazed at how much stronger they come next year. And then the following year, you'll be hard pressed to keep yourself from.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, I was curious about this one because I didn't recognize it.
Yes, it's a native wildflower called Solomon seal,
Lemon seal.
and it's in the lily family. So it gets this kind of arching stems,
Mm-hmm.
usually multiples from a clump, and then it flowers at the top nodes, several of them, and then it gets these little fruits,
Mm-hmm.
which are just turning color now. So I think they're almost mature and ready to go.
Oh, they won't turn red; they'll stay green.
They won't
Little-
turn red.
little
If
fruits?
they may turn like bluish black.
Ah, gotcha. Now, where is this planted at? Is this at your house or is this at the farm?
It's planted itself all over at the
All
farm.
over.
since it more and more of it has grown up.
Mm-hmm.
It has come in and planted itself. There's a similar looking plant called false Solomon seal, which has the same arching habit, the same look of leaves with the monocot
Mm-hmm.
parallel veins. But all its flowers, it has a terminal inflorescence.
Gotcha.
So all of its floral business happens at the end of the stem. So they're pretty easy to distinguish. When I looked this up, it lists it as multiple species. So there must be lots of types of different areas of the country and whatnot.
Does this patch kind of take care of itself, or is it aggressive, or just behaving? How would you?
They show up in different places. Where I have spring bulbs, there's an area with crocus and snow crocus and canadoxes and scillas, and I don't mow that until those have started to die down. Snowdrops as well, and they've kind of come in there.
Interesting.
And even though they get mowed down, then there seems to be more of them all the time. And if you happen to get next to like a young apple tree or something where you're watering it, whatever, they come over and say, water me too. So
Nice.
again, it's certainly not invasive, and it is native. Maybe not totally native to the prairie where the farm is located, but now that that's turned into more of a savanna, I think the biosphere there is different.
I can smell this. Well, did we go through everything? Did we go through all of the show and tell items?
I think pretty much.
That was really fast. So what are you going to do with all these? Because you're a seed saver and you work with. Tell us a little bit about that. Is it Seed Saver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been involved with Seed Savers Exchange since the early 1980s.
Mm-hmm.
I read about them in one of the gardening magazines and got hooked up with them somehow and started going to their summer campout conventions. I stayed in a motel. I'm not really camping out friendly, but
Love nature, but not that much.
yeah, there are some decent motels in Decorah, Iowa, and which is where their home base is located. And it started out, we were at like a 4-H camp, but then Kent Whaley, who started it with his wife, was awarded a MacArthur grant, and so they bought a farm in northeast Iowa, in Decorah, and that has since, through donations, whenever has expanded, and they have. It's a beautiful place. It's in the unglaciated part of northeastern Iowa. They actually have ice caves there.
Oh wow!
Where supposedly they haven't thawed since the Ice Age, and you get cool drafts out of there, and you get plant material that has retreated like up to Hudson's Bay naturally, but still can exist by these ice caves because this cold air comes out of them. But anyway, Seed Savers, it was actually Kent Whaley's wife's grandfather gave them starts of three things: a morning glory, a bean, and I forget what else. And then shortly thereafter died, and so it dawned on them that if they were to keep this family heirloom going, they had to keep it going. And then suddenly they started thinking about, are there other like-minded people with similar types of things? They had a little exchange going. I think they were in northern Missouri at that point. And then it kind of, the idea really hit because at that point all the major seed companies had gone mainly to hybrids and were mainly getting rid of anything that didn't sell.
And you send seeds to this group every year out of your garden?
I have offered seeds in the past. It's gotten a little more complicated because it's so expensive to send even a padded envelope now. Back in the day, you just put an extra stamp on a padded envelope and it went like mail. Yeah. Today, they turn it into a package. Yes. I just did that, and that was kind of a rude awakening. But I'm certainly willing to share these. The gill-feathered turnip, I just found out today, is the state vegetable of Vermont.
Well,
and
come and get it.
Yeah, and there was a time when I called this Vermont heirloom because there was a story going around of somebody was trying to register as a trademark the name gill-feathered turnip. And I thought that was unfair for an heirloom that had been around for 200 years or whatever. And but it seems to be everywhere as gill-feather now, and nobody seems to be too excited about it. But it really is a prolific seeder.
All right, Chuck. Well, thank you so much for bringing in your bucket of surprises today. And it's always a fun time when you stop by, so thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
And that is the show. If you've got questions, send them in to us at yourgarden@gmail.com, and we'll get them answered on an upcoming show. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.